It's such a pity. With just one heavenly supreme, stopping me is really quite difficult. Above the sky of the nameless continent, Yun hovered in mid-air. In front of him was a dark golden two elements annihilation god seal, twisting in the air. Not far opposite, Zhuang Yuanzi's face was grave as he looked at Yun. The two elements annihilation god seal Yun had just unleashed was far beyond his expectations. But if one heavenly supreme isn't enough, then what about two? As these calm words escaped Zhuang Yuanzi's mouth, Yun's heart jolted. He immediately turned his gaze sharply toward the back. Buzz. A slight distortion in space occurred not far behind Yun, and under his horrified gaze, a middle-aged figure dressed in a yellow robe appeared from the void. The Ancient's Heaven Gate Master, Mu Hongtian. You actually joined forces with me, the primordial divine clan. A voice full of shock came from Yun, who trembled as he spoke. His heart quivered once again as he looked at Mu Hongtian and said in a low voice, "So your target wasn't the enemy Wu Wanlong, but me? It seems that some of my secrets were leaked to the Divine Void Palace, and you're involved. Still, I'm curious. How did you gather the courage to attack me, a 12 holy son of the ancient heaven-reaching Python clan?" But just as Yun's voice fell, another shocking voice suddenly echoed from the distant sky. "Oh? A mere ancient's heaven gate dares to meddle with the affairs of the primordial divine clan? You seek death." A faint voice spread from the void ahead. As the space twisted, a figure emerged. A young man dressed in a brown windbreaker. The young man's head was completely bald, smooth as a mirror. His sudden appearance caused Yun, not far away, to be struck with complete disbelief. A voice full of incredulity escaped his lips, resounding across the heavens. "The fourth holy son. Tongdan, it's you." Yun stared in disbelief at the bald young man ahead. "So it turns out, it's you who wants the primordial divine vein." "That's right. Although it's a small amount, with this 1/10 of the primordial divine vein, I'll reach heavenly supreme in a few decades, and then I can fight for the championship in the future Holy Sun battle. Such a treasure in your hands would be a waste." The appearance of the bald youth, along with Yun's earlier words, caused Zhuang Yuanzi's pupils to shrink sharply. Looking at Mu Hongtian, who appeared extremely respectful in front of Tongdan, Zhuang Yuanzi now understood. No wonder Mu Hongtian seemed to know everything about Yun's situation. There was a higher-level Holy Sun backing him. Zhuang Yuanzi realized that he had unknowingly been drawn into the Holy Sun conflict within the primordial divine clan. "Don't even think about plotting against my primordial divine clan again, understand?" Tongdan's figure shifted, appearing next to Mu Hongtian, and he spoke with authority. "Understood, Holy Sun Tong," Mu Hongtian replied respectfully. "Master Mu, this is not good. You're using me and dragging me into this," Zhuang Yuanzi said, looking at Mu Hongtian standing next to Tongdan. No wonder Mu Hongtian had proactively sought him out on the Divine Void continent and revealed the matter of the primordial divine vein to him. It turned out that everything happening right now was part of Mu Hongtian's plan. He knew Zhuang Yuanzi would be tempted, and since one heavenly supreme wasn't enough to stop Yun, Mu Hongtian had dragged him into this from the start. Now that the goal was achieved, "Master Zhuang, you see the situation now. I hope you make the right choice. If successful, and Holy Sun Tong becomes the leader of the ancient heaven-reaching Python clan, then our treatment will naturally be extraordinary," Mu Hongtian said, looking at Zhuang Yuanzi. "Heh, the dignified fourth Holy Sun actually conspires with external forces over 1/10 of the primordial divine vein. If the clan finds out about such methods, I wonder how magnificent the spectacle would be." In midair, Yun stood tall, with the palace master of the Divine Void Palace, Zhuang Yuanji, behind him. Facing him were the sect leader of the ancient Heaven Gate, Mu Hongtian, and the fourth Holy Sun, Tongdan, who was his equal among the 12 Holy Sons and had orchestrated everything. Though I don't know why 1/10 of the originally complete primordial divine vein would end up inside your body. Since it can enter your body, it's only natural for it to enter mine as well, Tongdan said, grinning at Yun. "Since you want it so badly, come and take it." Yun's eyes narrowed slightly. With a flick of his fingers through the void, he once again tapped the two elements Annihilation God seal, sending ripples through the air. A thin black line shot out from the dark golden divine seal, cutting across the sky and heading straight for Mu Hengtian and Tong Dan in front of him. Though we are both 12 holy sons, you are ranked lower than me. How dare you play these tricks in front of me? Seeing the black line shoot toward him, Tong Dan smiled and raised his hand. A dark golden divine seal quickly materialized, expanding into a massive two elements divine seal hundreds of feet in size. With a snap of his finger, a black line shot out, colliding violently with the black line rushing toward them. The two thin black lines collided, but instead of an earth-shattering explosion, they annihilated each other, dissipating into nothingness. The destructive power left both Zhuang Yuanji and Mu Hengtian feeling a prickling sensation in their hearts. However, just as the two black lines annihilated each other, He Yuanyun's figure darted toward one direction, then shot off at an unimaginable speed, tearing through the void and heading toward the distant horizon. Seeing He Yuanyun attempt to escape, Tong Dan's gaze narrowed slightly. Do you think I'll let you run away so easily, just because you want the primordial divine vein? A low voice came from Tong Dan, his lips curling into a cold smile. He Yuanyun pushed his spiritual energy to the limit and sped toward the horizon. Buzz. However, just as he flew less than 10,000 feet, his brows twitched. Suddenly, a strange buzzing sound came from ahead, and a red figure pierced through the distorted space, blocking He Yuanyun's path. When He Yuanyun saw the figure, his expression froze. The 12th Holy Son. Yin Yao. He Yuanyun exclaimed in surprise. He had not expected Tong Dan to bring another Holy Son along. Hello, He old buddy. I heard you've been missing lately. Turns out you've been out here playing, the red-clad youth. Yin Yao said with a faint smile. His arms crossed over his chest as he stood in front of He Yuanyun. Why aren't you staying in the clan to train properly? The Holy Sun War is about to begin. What are you doing here? He Yuanyun said, his voice low as he stared at Yin Yao. Yes, that's precisely why I'm here. The Holy Sun War is about to begin, so I'm here to inform you that it's time to return, Yin Yao said, narrowing his eyes slightly. The competition between the 12 Holy Sons is so intense, I didn't expect two of them to team up, He Yuanyun said, his voice heavy. But, with your early Earth Supreme cultivation, do you really think you can stop me? Boom. As He Yuanyun spoke, an overwhelming aura erupted from his body. His figure crossed the void, directly appearing in front of Yin Yao, but the latter still stood unfazed, his arms crossed, floating in the air. Seeing Yin Yao so unfazed in the face of his attack, He Yuanyun's anger flared. Among the 12 Holy Sons, rankings were based on actual strength, and as the 8th Holy Son, he naturally ranked higher than the 12th Holy Son, Yin Yao. Yin Yao had no right to act arrogantly in front of him. Boom. A massive wave of spiritual energy surged from He Yuanyun's body, transforming into a colossal meteor tens of thousands of feet in size. It hurtled toward Yin Yao, carrying a thunderous force that would obliterate everything within 100,000 miles if it landed. However, just as the massive meteor was only a few hundred zhang away from the flame Yao below, a buzzing sound suddenly came from beyond the horizon. In an instant, the entire world seemed to fall under someone's control, and all movements froze. Even the phenomenon of heaven and earth, which had been unleashed by He Yuanyun, was completely frozen. Since we are all from the same clan, why must we fight each other? Let me be your opponent instead. A calm voice rang out from not far away. Then, He Yuanyun saw an old figure emerge in front of Flame Yao, where the space rippled. It was none other than the leader of the Divine Void Palace, Zhuang Yuanzi. Seeing Zhuang Yuanzi appear once again, He Yuanyun's expression grew even more serious. Zhuang Palace Master, are you planning to join forces with us? Flame Yao asked, crossing his arms behind his back and looking at Zhuang Yuanzi with a faint tone. Indeed, you've dragged me into this mess, and now I have no choice. What else can I do? If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have targeted He Yuanyun in the first place, Zhuang Yuanzi said helplessly. But I do have one condition. Speak. As long as it's not about the primordial divine vein, I'll agree to it, Flame Yao replied indifferently. I don't want anything. After this matter ends, I hope you can forget about me. I ask for nothing more than to have no further involvement in this affair. There's no need to worry about that, Palace Master Zhuang. The fireworks of the Divine Void Palace will continue to burn, Flame Yao said with a slight smile. Then that's good, Zhuang Yuanzi said, casting his gaze forward and locking it on He Yuanyun. Apologies. Swish. Seeing the situation turn unfavorable, He Yuanyun no longer hesitated. He activated the spiritual energy within him, and an immense surge of energy erupted from his body. His form rapidly expanded and transformed into an enormous, tens of thousands of zhang-long, dark golden-scaled heavenly python. As He Yuanyun unleashed his true form, a terrifying pressure filled the entire world. Unleashing one's true form was a desperate measure even for spiritual beasts or divine beasts. This indicated how dire He Yuanyun's situation had become. However, he also understood that even with his true form, facing two heavenly supremes and the two holy sons who were preparing to move, his chances of victory were almost zero. The only thing he could do now was one thing: escape at all costs. Roar. A furious roar erupted from He Yuanyun, and his form shot toward the sky, the only escape route left to him as the surroundings were sealed off in all directions. Boom. Seeing He Yuanyun summon his true form to flee, Zhuang Yuanzi and Mu Hongtian, standing not far away, exchanged a glance. Then, two terrifying auras descended, engulfing the surrounding area within nearly 1,000,000 miles. In an instant, the entire world felt like a massive prison, with everything under control. High in the sky, the ancient heavenly python was completely frozen in place, and He Yuanyun could only gnash his teeth as he watched the four figures below. We can't afford to fight with the primordial divine clan's people. You should deal with it yourselves, Mu Hongtian said as he completely froze He Yuanyun. He then turned his gaze to the Tong Dan in front of him. Himph! Hearing Mu Hongtian's words, Tong Dan shot him a glance, snorted coldly, and his figure shot out, crossing the sky, appearing directly in front of the heavenly python. Such a good creature, but it needs a worthy master. Tong Dan sneered as he looked at the frozen heavenly python. He then unleashed a terrifying aura at the later stage of the Earth Supreme, sweeping the spiritual energy within a tens of thousands of miles radius into chaos. His palm slowly extended and slammed directly at He Yuanyun. Boom! A terrifying force shattered the surrounding void for tens of thousands of zhang, and the overwhelming power poured onto He Yuanyun's massive form, sending him flying for 1,000,000 zhang. His gigantic body crashed into the ground, causing a massive area to collapse, leaving a pit around 10,000 zhang deep. Not far away, Mu Hongtian and Zhuang Yuanzi exchanged a glance, both a bit startled. He Yuanyun and Tong Dan were both from the ancient heaven-reaching Python clan, a branch of the primordial divine clan, and both were among the 12 holy sons. To their surprise, when it came to a fight, neither held back in the slightest. Hand over the primordial divine vein, or I'll cripple you, Tong Dan said coldly, standing with his hands behind his back in the sky, looking down at He Yuanyun, who was lying in the giant pit, battered and dirty. Since you want it so badly, why don't you come and take it yourself? He Yuanyun, still grinning despite his battered state, lay in the pit below, staring up at Tong Dan. Seeking death. Tong Dan's anger flared at He Yuanyun's words. His gaze shifted to the distant horizon, where a figure in red appeared, Yin Yao. Upon hearing his name, Yin Yao understood that Tong Dan wanted him to deal with He Yuanyun. Though both were among the 12 holy sons, the vast difference in their rankings and strength left Yin Yao with no choice but to follow his command, despite his reluctance. Whoosh! Yin Yao's figure streaked across the sky, heading directly for the giant pit where He Yuanyun lay. At the same time, his spiritual energy surged to its peak. As he approached, he struck with a palm, unleashing a gray flame from his body that swirled around him and condensed into a massive gray, flaming palm, which he sent crashing toward He Yuanyun below. The flaming palm, imbued with terrifying power, sped toward He Yuanyun. Just as it was within a few hundred yards of him, a buzzing sound echoed from the pit. The surrounding space began to twist rapidly, and a massive spatial rift tore open within the pit. Seeing the sudden rift, Yin Yao's expression changed drastically, as did the expressions of Tong Dan in the sky and the others, including Mu Hung Tian and Zhuang Yuanzi. Whoosh! At the moment Yin Yao was stunned by the rift, a figure in black shot out from the massive tear in space with an unimaginable speed. As this figure moved, a colorful array of light erupted from within, transforming into fiery flames of all hues. Dozens of differently colored flames spiraled in midair, finally condensing into a single pinpoint of light. The figure in black, carrying the light, collided with the massive gray, flaming palm hurtling down from above. Boom! The tiny pinpoint of light and the massive gray, flaming palm collided with an explosive impact, sending shockwaves like thunder in all directions. Above, Yin Yao's eyes widened as he saw tiny cracks spreading rapidly across the gray, flaming palm. In the blink of an eye, the cracks covered the entire palm, and it shattered into pieces before his stunned gaze. Who is it? The sudden turn of events made Yin Yao roar angrily. Whoosh! The explosion created a thick cloud of smoke that engulfed the entire pit. As the smoke cleared, a figure in black robes appeared before Yin Yao and Tong Dan. It was a slender young man in black robes, his upright posture surrounded by colorful flames, like a king of fire. The young man in black turned his gaze toward Yin Yao and spoke calmly.